to give you an overview of what our services are all about and talk to you a little bit about also disabilities, because basically we serve people with disabilities, either that are currently employed, looking for employment, or transition students going from high school to employment or college. And we're housed here. We used to be at a separate building, as Mr. Trevino mentioned, but now we're all housed here. We're part of Region 6, which covers San Antonio and south, from Del Rio all the way to Brownsville, Victoria, and Corpus Christi. So we do have one of the largest regions in the state, and we cover all of these communities. Some of us actually travel because we covered, in my case, as an employment assistance specialist, I travel to the Valley, Corpus Christi area to work with customers with, actually, Martha and I work with people with blind and visual impairment. We do have other counselors that work with other disabilities, but in our case, we work with blind and visual impairment. Martha, you want to add something else besides before we start with our presentation?
Yes, good morning. My name is Marta San Miguel, as Mr. Centias mentioned. So the services here, I know you're teachers and we have some other employers here present, but we also cover all ages. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor for adults, but we also have the transition counselors, which is for the young adults, ages 14 to 22. So these services can be for yourself, such as you being an employee of the school districts, for your children, for your family members. So our services, again, are geared towards employment, always either preparing, if it's for an individual that has a disability and that's looking to be independent and to move forward with an educational goal, and then ultimately with an employment goal. So we are going to be starting with our presentation. It is a short sensitivity training as well, and throughout the presentation, we will also be explaining some of our services as well.
Thank you, Martha. And basically, we'll start with what is disability. And most people pretty much have a pretty good idea of what a disability is. But based on some of the things that obviously we're going to be learning, the different types of disability that we work with, and discuss some of the effects and some of the attitudes that people have towards people with disabilities. And we're also going to show you a short 3.5-minute video just to give you an idea what sometimes people have a tough time interacting with people with disabilities. And we defined disability and how to create reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities, because based on the disability, they're going to need different accommodations. And this is a question that sometimes some of us may have a different answer for it, but what comes to mind when you think of the word disability? Anybody? Say that again?
It's a limitation.
Limitations, absolutely. What else? Sorry? Yes, absolutely. Need accommodations, absolutely. And all those are part of things that come to mind when we think of disability. Sometimes people think, well, I see that parking lots labeled with, and if you see, and actually you can see one outside here, a parking lot, a wheelchair, somebody in a wheelchair. And usually people associate disabilities with wheelchair. But there are other types of disabilities besides physical disabilities. There are visible and non-visible disabilities. So as we go, you'll see, we'll play this video. I don't know if we have sound. Yeah.
Like so many of us, just doesn't know how to interact with people with disabilities.
Thank you.
It's pretty easy, really. People with disabilities are people first.
We need the same things that every person needs, like respect.
Good morning, everyone.
Attention! Okay. People need to be more specific.
The easiest way to show respect is to focus on the person, not the disability. It's okay. You get that anyway.
One easy way to focus on the person is to watch the person signing and not their interpreter.
Or their companion.
It's really cool that you'd like to help, but do us both a favor and please ask me first. What you think might be helping? I got you. Yeah. Oh, well, we're actually not.
If you'd like to offer me help, let me hold on to your elbow. Don't take mine.
Hey, you like to take one on?
Sure.
Assistive devices help us to live our lives. They're really important and really personal.
Having them all makes it weird for everyone.
But please only touch our devices and service animals if we've given you permission. And don't take it personally if I ask you not to. Remember that my service animal helps me all the time. Neither of us would like it if we were separated.
Remember, we make our own decisions. We sign documents, vote, volunteer, work, and pay taxes.
We get married.
So don't judge me just because I'm a risk now.
Just because I'm blind does not mean I'm deaf.
Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm blind.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean that I can't sweep you off your feet.
So take a deep breath, relax. We don't fight.
Unless we're really hungry.
Hey, lady, how are you?
And if you're not sure what to do, just ask.
Would you like to give me a name?
I know they expect me to read it to me.
Sure, definitely.
Just treat us the way you would want to be treated, and we'll all be okay.
Morning, Alice.
Awkward no more. Nice job, Bob. Go forth and be human. There's no need to be awkward.
Okay, and that just to give you an idea of sometimes how it can be a little awkward interacting with people with disabilities. And that may be just a little bit exaggerated, but it happens. And the people do tend not to know. Yes, go ahead.
As a mom with a child with a disability, Down syndrome and autism, I think it is hilarious, but it is right, hit it right on the nail.
You can relate. Exactly. Yes, it is difficult, and sometimes we try to do these community awareness presentations to the community, and everybody that is willing to listen to us, and just to give you more or less an idea of what people go through, people with disabilities, and some of the challenges that not only the individual with the disability, but their family members also. Okay, and of course, disability, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, is defined as an individual with a disability is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more of life's activities, has a record of that impairment, or is regarded as having an impairment. According to the statistics, 1 in every 4 individuals has a disability. So if you can imagine in a group this size, there are some people with disabilities. Some of them may not even know that they have a disability, but they do, or we do. And as I mentioned, they are visible and non-visible disabilities. One thing before I forget to mention, we sometimes, vocational rehab services are regarded as one of the best kept secrets in the state, unfortunately, because very few people know about our services. So we like to have more people be aware that we exist and that we provide these services. And visible disabilities, of course, physical and neurological disorders, development disabilities, paralysis, amputation, blindness. Those are things that we can see that somebody has a disability. However, there are some the non-visible that are not as easily detected by most people, such as deafness, hard of hearing, low vision, blindness, mental and emotional impairments, seizures, disorders, cognitive impairments, and chronic and pain and illnesses. Some people may not even think that chronic pain could be a disability. And for this section, I'll pass it to Martha to tell you about leading causes of low vision.
So one of the, being the counselor for the blind and visually impaired, some of the leading causes of low vision, and in reality, this is one of the most, these are some of the most conditions that I see as a counselor for customers coming in to apply, would be diabetic retinopathy. We live in the border, we're a border town, and we do have historically Hispanics diabetes. So diabetes does cause low vision, blurry vision, bleeding in your veins and your retina veins. There's also age-related macular degeneration. One of the most commons as well would be cataracts. People come in to apply for services due to cataracts. Just an example, your teachers, you start noticing blurry vision, you're driving, or at night, you start seeing rings around like headlights, and or you go out and the glare is really bothering you. So you go get a checkup and they tell you, hey, you have cataracts, you need surgery. For the most part, individuals, you might have medical health insurance, some don't, but they tell you right away. Usually ophthalmologists are like, okay, come in on Monday, just, $6,000 and you're good. And people, for the most part, might not have the $6,000 readily available. So an individual can come in to apply because they do have a physical or have a disability. It's causing an impediment to employment. We know that in this case, it would be job retention. The person is employed and they require our services. So those would be some of the ways that an individual would be able to qualify for services under vocational rehabilitation. We also have glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa. So see, some of these are some of the leading causes of low vision. So this is a simulation. This is what diabetic retinopathy looks like, because again, you don't notice, like when you see a movie, a show, and you see a person that's walking around with their dark glasses and their white cape. For the most part, that is very rare. So people might not know, or I don't know if you've had a family member say, hey, I'm having problems with my vision, I have this condition. And sometimes people really, and that's sometimes what I hear even from their loved ones, well, it's because I say hello, or I see the person very normal functioning, and they told me I can't see, or you're saying hello from across the room and you're not waving back, or they're no me quieren saludar, So this is what a person sees. when they have diabetic retinopathy. So for the most part, they describe it as blurry spots, and sometimes this vision cannot be regained. Cataracts, it's like a film, like a yellow film on top of your eyes, blurry vision. Glaucoma, your vision starts closing in. So the first thing that you start losing for the most part is your peripheral vision, your visual fields. So your vision could be perfect vision in the middle, but again, you can't see your side. So at this point, you have to be moving your head. If you're driving, you need to completely turn your head to be able to see who's coming from the side. And retinitis pigmentosa. This is an eye condition that could be hereditary. Thank you. And again, it's also, the vision is closing in. For the most part, you could ultimately lose it completely. And this would be a person that has like maybe 10 degrees or less of vision. Even though, as you can see, it's very clear in the middle. A person with this eye condition could be considered legally blind as well. So another just a notation in regards just to overall eye conditions. Again, how Mr. Centias was saying, you know, some of these are not visible. It's not what we're used to seeing, what we think we know of from you know, TV shows. So if you do have a family member that is having some problems with their vision, just be aware. And of course, we tend to forget, just because I've been doing this as a counselor. I'm aware, of course, because I'm exposed to this every day. But people do tend to forget if somebody tells you, oh, I have this, and then the next day you forget, like, but you can't see. So if you do have some students or family members, just be mindful always in regards to describing things for them. I know we're so used to saying, sí, vete para allá, allá, over there. Like, so we're not specific when giving out directions. Providing large print for your students, that is considered an accommodation actually for students, maybe having extra time. They have access to using some of their assistive technology, things that will magnify their homework. So it is difficult, but it can be done with the proper accommodations. Then let me go ahead and bring it back to Mr. Centias.
Thank you, Marta. And this again is referring to people with disabilities. When they say use people first language, in this case, it gives you the two columns, not acceptable and acceptable. Instead of saying disabled or handicapped, which usually it used to be okay to refer to somebody as handicapped or disabled, but it's really more a person with a disability. It's a more acceptable term to use. In this case, an autistic person. You use a person first, a person with autism. Same thing. I think this next one, mentally retarded, I don't think anybody uses that term anymore. Of course, you use something like a person with an intellectual disability or a disability intellectual development delay, obviously, and wheelchair bound. It's something that people say, well, he's bound to a wheelchair. Well, it's somebody that uses, a person that uses a wheelchair. As far as assistive technology, for my line of work that I do assessments for blind and visual impairment. Based on their visual condition, I do an assessment of what type of assistive technology this person may benefit from. So it can range. We see customers from low vision to total blindness. So their assistive technology is going to differ from one person to the next based on their visual condition. So it can be, a lot of it has to do with, as Marta mentioned, video magnifiers, portable desktop, loggable. And I brought one. If we have time, we can actually show you some. When we go sometimes and do presentations, we bring our assistive technology kit and show people some of these devices that help people with blindness or visual impairment deal with their duties at work or at school for that matter. We have video magnifiers that have a camera that can, sitting from way in the back, if you know, especially if you're in college, you go to those big classrooms, somebody with a visual impairment sitting in the back would not be able to see what's on the screen. So with this camera, these devices, they can actually point the camera to the front and they can magnify it in their tablet in front of them.
Can you provide the equipment?
Yes, ma'am.
It's on a loan basis, or how is it?
No, we provide you the equipment for you to keep. So if the student needs some of these devices, I do the assessment, then I in turn make a report, submit it to the counselor, and then the counselor in turn, actually, we send them to go to a assistive technology evaluation so they can go and test different devices. We don't really recommend any particular brand because there are a lot of brands out there. So we recommend categories. So we send them usually to the San Antonio Lighthouse or the assistive technology unit in Austin for them to be able to show them the different devices that do the same thing, but they feel that it's their choice to choose which one they're more comfortable with.
Now, if I may add, thank you. If I may add, for students, since they are in school in the public system, it is a responsibility of the school first to provide those accommodations. So in communication, let's say we send them over to a low vision evaluation in San Antonio, and that recommendation, that paperwork comes back, we go ahead and share it with the school district. We are part of it. We have, since I'm an adult counselor, I do have a couple of young adults in my caseload just because they asked to be transferred over to another counselor, because again, that's a choice that parent, if they're underage, right? They could do if they feel that they want somebody else for their services. But we work in conjunction. So usually parents invite us to the ARD meetings and we're there as a support. And again, sometimes I know, the school district is busy and the administrators, and sometimes you're forgetting to touch bases on something during the ARD. So we're there through invitation of the parent and of the school as well to provide that support and say, oh, hey, reminder this. But once a student is a senior, that we know they're ultimately either going to focus on going to college to study for whatever it is that they're going to, for their occupation, or they right away off the bat decide, you know what, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to go to college, but I want to pursue employment. During their senior year, that's when we start talking about the assistive technology, because we do know that the schools have to pick up that equipment. That's basically equipment that's loaned by the school district. So we want to make sure that this individual is ready to reach their full potential. So we let them in and we speak with parents. And of course, once the student is 18 years of age or older, we do keep reminding them, reminder to always talk to your counselor. You plan to go to school during the fall, make sure that you're always in contact with us, because we need to get this equipment in before you start your semester. Again, we want to make sure that you have everything readily available for you to begin your year successful. So, but ultimately, once they're adults, or you come in as an adult, like not as a student, just as a person that has diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and it's affecting your job, you apply, and based on the type of the job that you do, there would be some recommendations. Because again, we don't purchase assistive technology just for anybody. We would have to send you to the employment specialist, and based on the job duties that you have, do you need assistive technology? And we would go ahead and do that for that individual.
So if you're not employed, then that doesn't qualify.
Well, remember, during our 4 criteria, employment has to be a goal. So let's say you come in and you tell me, Ms. Miguel, I'm retired and I never, ever, ever want to go back, then VR vocational rehab wouldn't be the program for you. It has to be that there has to be an employment goal. Yes.
Okay, so yes, in this case, we actually, the equipment that we purchase is especially for students that already graduated or about to graduate or have graduated, and they're pursuing either college or employment. And at that time, it's when we come in with the equipment for these folks. Now, there's another program within VR that is for older individuals who are blind, that are 55 and older, and they're not necessarily looking for employment or employed, but they need assistance for vocational rehab services, and we provide those services also for people that are 55 and older. Some of the assistive technology that we use is software. Sometimes we use software, JAWS and Zoom Text and Fusion. Basically, those are just software for people with visual impairment. JAWS basically means job access with speech. And Zoom Text, it's a magnification program that magnifies the screen at a higher level than Windows magnifier could. And Fusion, it's actually a combination of those two. So now I think actually we are recommending those because there's no one out there that has anything like this. So we would, if somebody needs text to speech or speech to text, we do recommend Fusion for this particular assistive technology. And do you want to talk about that?
So some of the services, I know we were gearing, because again, we are for the blind and visually impaired, but we have a lot of services for job seekers. There's job training. We do have individuals that have never had a job. Again, we have students right now during the summer. We're actually doing, in conjunction with Workforce, we're working on the Summer Earn and Learn. I don't know if you as teachers or parents have heard. For sure, we call it SEAL, and it's providing students a 6-week training opportunity at a job site. So again, gearing towards preparing them for that world of work. That would be for the students, of course, but we do have it as well for adults. We also have, again, the assistive technology. And assistive technology, we were talking more about blind and visually impaired, but there's other type of assistive technology that other disabilities might require. So we could also, in conjunction with the counselor, based on the type of disability, there is access for us to, if the person again is eligible, for us to provide or purchase that technology for the customer. We do have as well technology training. We do have some individuals that, such as Mr. Santiago was mentioning, some of this equipment, nobody has ever used it. So we provide that so that the person can know how to access it. We do have medical services. So as how I was mentioning before, talking about cataract surgeries. We are not medical insurance, but it's a type of service that we provide, a medical service. If it is to remove that impediment to employment or to stabilize that condition. So there might be some individuals that require maybe something related to their knees, something related to their back. But again, it goes through a process. We do have to gather all this information to make sure that what the doctor is recommending is appropriate. Some of these treatments do require further approvals. There might be some conditions that we don't work at, such as cancer. Because again, remember, it's about employment, what's going to gear you towards that goal. So that person has to be ready for that step after that impediment to employment is removed or stabilized. Oh,
And the other services, blind services that we provide, different folks provide different services, orientation and mobility, which actually are the folks that will train our customers how to use a white cane, how to go from point A to point B, transportation, how do you safely walk outside your house. Those people that have a visual impairment, they're usually familiar with their home environment and they can get around without any assistance. But once they go outside the house, unknown environments, they do need training and they do need to use a white cane. And vocational rehabilitation teachers, they teach blindness skills. They do assessments also based on 6 categories. Adjustment to blindness is one of them. It's a main category, which a lot of people that just recently lose their sight due to a lot of times, as Marta mentioned, diabetes. We've had customers that have been driving trucks for 20 years, and all of a sudden they can't do that anymore. So for some of these folks that all of a sudden lose their sight, it's a big adjustment to go from doing something that you've done practically all your life, and now you need to find a different line of employment. So adjustment to blindness, it's a category that that a lot of people go into depression. They have a tough time dealing with the new reality. So our vocational rehabilitation teachers help these customers with that. They help them with blindness skills. They do assessments on the blindness skills, independent living skills, lifestyle employment skills. What do we do, to get ready to go to go to our jobs in the morning? So a lot of these things are vocational rehab teachers do training on some of these areas and provide supplies and equipment. We use bump dogs to mark appliances, to mark a keyboard, and so forth. Travel, as I mentioned, orientation and mobility. If during that assessment, the teacher notices that the person actually is going to require orientation and mobility, make recommendations to the counselor to get a referral to orientation and mobility. And then, of course, where I come in, employment assistance specialist, which I deal with assistive technology. So I do assessments specifically for assistive technology. And then those are some of our specialists are not housed here. I'm the only one that is housed here. Some of the other specialists actually are housed in San Antonio, but they do travel. So we do travel all the time and go and visit customers wherever they are. And we go and also, we do assessments also for employment, for the employer. We do job analysis. We go to the actual, if you're working as a teacher, I go to your classroom and see what kind of environment you're dealing with. I look at your computer system. I look at what kind of software you might need, or even a bigger monitor. So we work with the school districts. We work with employers, and because we would have to have permission in order to install some of this software on their computer system, we would have to coordinate with the employer and make sure that they're okay. Because sometimes their computer systems may not have enough memory for these programs to run. And by the way, these services are not income based. You're regardless of your income, you can qualify for services with us.
While we do ask, just to go back on that, during application, because we do have a process. Of course, you come in as a referral. Once you get then an appointment, we explain to you what the services are about, because sometimes an individual might not know. They might just be sent over and then they ask, what is VR? What is vocational rehab services? So we explain to them if they feel it's appropriate. We don't deny an application, regardless of if you think, well, I might be too severe. An application, you can have an application appointment and we can fill out an application. That we don't deny. Because again, what we do is gather all of the information to make sure you hit those 4 targets, that person, again, is ready for competitive integrated employment. And yes, while we ask income, we don't deny specifically on income. What that might look like is, because we've had teachers, we've had a border patrol apply, we've had people that have good income, and what it looks like would be, example, for eye medical services. Let's just say a surgery might be $6,000 and you're going over the income limit about $200. That would just be your cost of participation. When sometimes it is already, if the doctor's recommending some pre-op medications, eye drops, you're already spending that money in the medication. So for the most part, people, and it's very rare, but if a person is going over income, they're like, I don't mind, because again, the big service in this case, let's say in a surgery case, they're like, you're working through the major, that big chunk of the service would be the surgery. So people don't mind. It's okay with the prescription medication. That's more or less what that would look like. But all of these services, again, once you get your equipment, if you're going to use it to advance in employment, you're going to use it for your job, it's yours to keep.
And again, sometimes when we talk to employers, some of the smaller employers, in small cities such as ours, employers are not that familiar with disabilities, and they think that by hiring somebody with a disability, it's going to cost them money, and they're afraid sometimes of hiring somebody with a disability because, well, how much it's going to be an additional cost that I just don't have. And for the most part, we will pay for any additional software, computers that the customer may need at no cost to the employer or the school district, for that matter. I recently did an assessment on the school teacher here locally that actually has a vision impairment, and so we are recommending certain items for her. Accommodations, best practices. Actually, never assume that somebody needs an accommodation. Use first person language. Direct your attention to individual and not the interpreter or coach. Sometimes people that are deaf or hard of hearing use interpreters, and people tend to look at the interpreter when they're talking to that person. So basically they're telling you best practices, just focus your attention to the person with the disability and not the interpreter or the coach. Allow use of assistive technologies, so software, hardware, equipment. In some of these cases, people need to use assistive technology. In college, students may need to use their smartphones. Their smartphones have a lot of assistive technology features that students are able to see magnification from reading a document and so forth. There are apps out there that can read barcodes, that can actually read a document to you, take a picture, and so forth. So sometimes employers and colleges need to be able to allow these accommodations for their customers. As I mentioned, smartphones and meetings. Sometimes in meetings, when you go to meetings, people that sometimes attend meetings, virtual meetings, they need to look at the screen. They have to use special equipment. They have to use video magnifiers. They have to use screen readers and so forth. So basically, we have to allow and educate people that accommodations are needed for some of these folks. And our business cards in VR, we have that in the back of our business card. So if you want to apply for VR services, you can just scan that VR code and it'll take you straight into the application process, or you can call that number statewide and they will route that individual to the right unit, management unit in the state. Anything else you would like to add?
Well, thank you everybody so much. I think we're already out of time. But yes, if you are interested in applying for services or just asking questions, I believe you all have a copy of the presentation. You know where we are. If you come into the office, you can always ask for a VR representative, and one of our assistants will go ahead and make an appointment for you. Or if you just need have a quick question, we can take care of that for you. Again, all disabilities, even though we spoke mainly about, we tend to gear towards, our expertise, but we're here to assist you as an employee, a parent, a student. We're here to provide those services for that individual to be independent and to ultimately reach a goal. So thank you so much.